Welcome everybody to today's webinar. If you're here to learn how to attract clients more through a coffee conversation rather than feeling like you're selling as a salesperson, you came to the right place. I am so excited to welcome Harry in just a little bit. Before we do have a few housekeeping things. Um, First of all, drop in the chat. Have you ever avoided promoting your business because you didn't want to feel pushy? That chat is usually located on the bottom right. So please start engaging in the chat. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please put it in there. I will be monitoring it and being able to ask Harry all the questions throughout the webinar. So please ask away so that you walk away feeling like you are ready to grow your business without feeling like a salesperson. Also, these webinars are free, and we would not be able to do that without our generous sponsors and supporters. And so I want to take just a moment to thank our featured sponsor this week, which is Nebraska Rural Electric Association, an organization dedicated to supporting Nebraska public power districts and electric cooperatives that serve communities across our state of Nebraska. Through advocacy, education, and leadership, NREA plays an important role in strengthening rural Nebraska and helping local communities thrive. We're grateful for their continued support of programs and educational opportunities such as today's webinar. We also want to take a moment to give a special shout out to a featured member. This week is Old Ironsides Barbecue and Banquet Hall, a proud Grow Nebraska member since 2023. They're located in Cario, Nebraska, and Old Ironside is known for serving up incredible barbecue, hearty comfort food, and a welcoming atmosphere that makes you feel right at home. So whether you're stopping in for a meal, catering, or hosting an event in their banquet space, they deliver an experience centered around quality food and great hospitality. So we're proud to have them as part of the Grow Nebraska community, and be sure to stop by their restaurant if you're around that area. We also want to let you know about our Grow Nebraska Women's Business Center. They have what we call BAIL, Banker, Accountant, Insurance, and Legal, and that is open to anyone who would like to join. So if you ever want to ask a question to any of those type of resources, swing by on a Wednesday and have your questions answered. And be on the lookout. We are bringing BAIL to Lincoln as well starting in July. Finally, if you have ever wanted to know what Grow Nebraska does or how Grow Nebraska might be able to assist with your business ventures, please reach out. We would love to have a conversation and see if we're a good fit to come alongside your business and help provide you with the digital footprint, the marketing support, the networking tailored to your business needs. And without further ado, Harry, I would love for you to take the stage and fill everybody in on how we can make talking about our business more simple and more conversational. Let me stop my screen. There we go. That might help you.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Great to have you folks in the room with us. I am calling in or zooming in from the great state of Florida. I've never been to Nebraska, but when I was a kid, my Nebraska story is I grew up in Massachusetts, and the Nebraska Cornhuskers were what college football was all about in the 70s. And I became a big fan of the Nebraska Cornhuskers from a very small town in Massachusetts, of all places. So that's my familiarity with you folks. It's probably your grandparents' age or your parents' age. But yeah, so that was the reality back in the 70s with the big rivalry of Ohio State and Michigan and whoever else played in those days.
Go
So
Big Red.
today's topic, what's your thought, Cami?
Go Big Red.
Yeah. So today's topic is really about how to attract people through our values in sales and have conversations with these types of people that share our values. This is a very interesting challenge because what happens in sales is a lot of people actually think that everybody is a prospect. So they view that when someone doesn't buy from them, they view that as a failure on their part. But really, there's so much that goes into finding the right types of people to call on and to find out if they have a need and if they want the need to come to fruition via paying for it. So sometimes people will say things, yeah, oh, I'd love to get it solved, but that costs too much money. And they just don't do anything. So we appreciate, we're going to try to look at some of these comments here over time. So thanks for that. So that's what this is about, is finding the right people, having conversations with them, and then moving that process forward, right? If there is interest, if they are going through some pain and they want it solved, we're going to show you how to move that forward. And you're going to walk away today with a worksheet that will help you to have sales conversations going forward, right? That's what this is all about, so that you have something to take away that will be super valuable for you. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see if I can find that. And here we go. So this is going to be some slides, some interaction, some worksheet. So here we go. So how to attract clients through your values with coffee conversations is the topic today. And I like the idea of making this coffee conversations because it's not really a sales conversation. It's really too early to make it a sales conversation. And we feel gross and there's pressure on us and we get all kinds of nervous. No, just view it as a coffee conversation. This is going to be easy peasy. We're going to basically see, is this a new friend or not? And for the most part, people are pretty friendly. So just to give you an idea of my background, I wasn't always in sales per se. Over the last 30 years, I have been in sales and sales leadership. But before that, I used to do mission work in the Dominican Republic. This is one of the local Dominicans with me back when I had, about the same amount of hair as I do now. I'd like to think that I had hair, but this was where we spent some time in our ministry, in this little portion of the Dominican Republic with no running water, no bathrooms other than the outhouse, and virtually no electricity. So people were burning things. They had kerosene lamps, not a very modern place. And this was back in the 90s of all places times, right? It wasn't in the 1800s. It was the 1990s, and people were living like that. So from there, we left the mission field and I got into corporate sales, which was really the anti-Harry. I was super friendly, wanted to be liked, wanted to help people. I got into sales and I was like, oh my goodness, this is really cutthroat. It's heavy. It's not about making friends. It's about getting sales. And so I did that. And for the first several months, I felt like I was in the wrong place, right? I went from being outdoors, talking to all kinds of people, to now I'm making phone calls, breathing next to people, sharing cups of coffee, not sharing, but smelling their coffee breath, and hearing what they're saying. It was just not comfortable for me. And so after several months of putting up zeros of no sales, I got a nice little letter that says, you need to turn this around or we're going to part as friends. I thought, you know what? I'm going to be service minded and I'll just outserve everybody. That would be my approach to sales. And lo and behold, it kicked in. So I got into so the sales started to come to fruition, started making money, started getting recognized as one of the top reps of the company, top reps in the country, blah, blah, blah. And then I finally wrote, after 25 years or so, I wrote this book called Selling with Dignity, which is all about building relationships and trust and being a good person and not being the cutthroat salesy guy like so many think you have to be in the way Hollywood portrays sales. So that's a little bit on my background. So today I'm going to ask the question, how do you feel about sales? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Or do you know that it doesn't really matter? I just have to do it. So feel free to put that in the chat. I'm curious as to what you guys come up with. If we've got lovers of sales, haters of sales, or it's just, it's a fact of life, fact of business. I have to do it. So for many, it's hate, but they have to do it. And why is that? Well, because they are feeling that sales it's me against them. I've got to get people to buy from me, and they don't necessarily want to buy. So it's combat, right? And that is not a friendly, easy approach to sales. So my approach is serve first, build trust, and combining that with a light version of spin selling from Neil Rackham, a very popular sales methodology, and The Perfect Close, written by James Muir, which is a book that I love for helping you move the sales process forward. And then all of this is going to ultimately lead to more yeses, which is what we want, right? More yeses. So the key start to this is we need to be talking to the right people. If we're talking to the wrong person, let's just say my example in this is going to be a wellness coach. There's a lot of people out there that are into diet, exercise, nutrition, and they're there to help people lose weight, get in better shape, and have a sustainable life where they feel good. So let's just say that's who we are today for a brief time. And we're looking for people that are constantly, well, say we're going to coach women. So we're looking for busy professional women. We feel like the age bracket is going to be 35 to 55. They've had kids. They're successful in their careers. And we're putting successful in their careers partly because we cost money, right? They have to invest in us. If they're not successful and they don't have money, then they're probably not going to be in a position to invest with us. So we can't work for free. We can do a little bit of work for free, but that's not sustainable either, is working forever for free, obviously. So they feel drained and disconnected from their health, the problems they have. They're constantly tired. They're emotionally eating. I do that periodically. Watching a game or something, watching the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and they're having a great game. The wings and the pizzas are flying. That's emotional eating, right? Happy emotions. Inconsistent exercise. Guilt. I don't know if you've ever said this, but a lot of people in this realm are going to say, I know I should be healthier. I know I should be losing weight, but I just, I don't think about it when I'm going through my 10 o'clock meals. The result they want more natural energy, confidence. They want a better work-life balance without burnout. And all of this needs to be sustainable so they can continue. They can have joyful wellness and that they can maintain for the long term. So we're looking for people that want these things if that's our business, right? We're going to change this up depending on what your business is, but this is going to be the premise that we're working with today. So when we have a conversation, we have to kind of position where we're coming from. So ideally, we're looking for those types of people. If I'm a male, and I mean, obviously, if I'm a male, I'd be looking for men. But I would say this, as we're having a conversation for coffee, they say, so what is it you do? You're asking that question. You're finding out about them. And they ask you, what is it you do? And you say, simply, I work with busy professional women. We're tired of feeling drained and guilty about their health so that they can regain natural energy, confidence, and sustainable wellness, have a sustainable wellness lifestyle they actually enjoy. Do you know anyone like that? And I would use that line trying to get a smile, and they would say, oh yeah, shaking their head. But I already mapped this out, right? Because I already know my ideal client. And here's a person that's got teenagers. I know they're going to soccer practices and band camps and running ragged. So they need some time for themselves and take care of themselves. So now I can throw out, do you know anyone like that with a little sense of humor so that they can see that I am relatable. So now where do we go from here? So instead of an interrogation and feeling awkward about selling ourselves, we're going to apply this very naturally. It's going to be a very natural conversation, almost like talking about the weather, talking about what are you going to do for vacation. And we're going to have this formula in our head, which is SPIN. And the SPIN stands for their situation, right? What is their current situation? The P is the problem. What is the problem or pain that they're going through with their current situation? What's the implication? The I. What will this mean if they continue down this path? And finally, the N is the need payoff, right? They have a need and the payoff is this, and this is the great outcome that comes from that. So we're going to go through this. Can you tell me a bit about how you handle your current situation? What's most challenging? What happens if this continues over the next 6 months? And then if that were solved, what would be better for you? And this is where we're going to tie all of this in here with a worksheet. Are we tracking so far? How's our thought process? Is this clear, making sense? What's our take so far? Any comments coming up? Feel free to put something in the chat.
So far, we've had some people engaged. We're kind of across the board. Most people say they have to do the sales. We did have Ty say that he loves it. So
Nice.
um, people are tracking so far, so good.
All right, good deal. Okay, so as we go into this spin selling a little bit further, we're going to dive through this going back to the the wellness coach scenario. So now I've asked, do you know anyone like this? They smile. And so we're going to just go in there and say, I'm curious. Can you walk me through what a typical day or week for you right now when it comes to your energy and your self-care? So I transitioned from, do you know anyone like that, to I'm curious, because I want to lead with curiosity, showing that I care about the person and I'm not showing that I only care about a sale, right? I'm going to make friends with this person one way or the other. They might buy from me in the future. They might give me a referral. I might see them in the grocery store. Doesn't matter. We're going to be friendly. And so I'm just going to talk about how I want to know more about this person. So I'm curious, right? So I'm curious. Can you walk me through a typical day or a week for you right now when it comes to your energy and your self-care? And then they give me an answer. So they tell me really what their current situation is, and I'm getting to understand that. So they tell me I'm going to ask a secondary question. So they say, I'm super busy. I really don't have time for any self-care. I'm running ragged. So that's great, right? I mean, it's now they shared something. I want to ask another question there just to dig a little bit deeper. So, how are you currently approaching nutrition or exercise or movement in your busy schedule? Right? So you want to get that out. And then, maybe you're asking about meals, whatever pertains to your product or your service that you're offering. So that's the situation. This is not going to be a interrogation. So our questions have to show that we're interested in them, we're making eye contact, and we are nodding. And maybe we're doing a little bit of repeating back to what they're saying, repeating back what they're saying. So they might say, I'm running ragged. So now you can say, I hear, based on what you're telling me, that you're running ragged. How are you approaching nutrition? Right. So you're showing that you're listening by repeating back a little bit to them. And now you're asking the next question. So the next thing is really we're in the situation, we want to go to problem. So the problem questions. I really appreciate you sharing me about your current situation. I can tell you're running ragged, that you're eating on the run, you don't really have time for exercise. But tell me, what's been most challenging or frustrating about your health and energy lately? Now we're digging a little deeper. We want to hear what they are saying is about their challenge. So they give back an answer and they say, well, I used to be in good shape. That was a long time ago, it seems like. And I'm short of breath at times. I just can't fit in my clothes, whatever the line is. So repeat back. It's like, yeah, I hear you. You're not really, you're out of breath more, not fitting into your clothes. Where do you see yourself or where do you notice yourself getting stuck or falling back into the old patterns of just this cycle of eating late, eating on the run, and so forth, right? So we're trying to uncover what the real challenges are here. So those are the problem. And we can have more, but I'm just starting here with a couple, right? Based on what your conversation or what your service that you're selling is, you want to have problem questions related to the field that you're selling. So, for instance, you might be selling cybersecurity, you might be selling home remodeling. You're going to ask questions that relate to the problem that the person faces in your particular field. The implication. This one is, I think, one that is really missed frequently in sales. It is, what do you think happens? So thanking them for sharing all this about the current situation, some of their challenges. Now you're going to ask, what do you think happens to your focus and productivity at work if this level of fatigue were to continue for the next 6 to 12 months? Now we're getting the person to think, it's like, man, if I continue down this path, I'm going to be more out of breath. I'm going to be buying more clothes. I'm going to be, because I'm gaining weight. And then we might ask, yeah, I hear you. You might say something along those lines that were relatable, or I totally understand. I've been in similar situations myself. I used to live very similar to you. But let me ask, how is this affecting your relationships or how you even show up for your family at times? Are you seeing that being affected as well? So now we're digging deeper, and we were talking about the job, and now we're talking about the personal, the family. And so we're building a case through all of this. They're telling us really where this is going to lead, and they are giving you the map as to what they want solved. They're telling you what they want solved. So as they lead with these couple of things, you might ask, is there anything else? Right? I talked a little bit about family. I talked about your job, and then might just say, I'm worried that I'm going to turn out like my mother, who was severely overweight, had a heart attack, whatever, right? So we want to get that exhausted. Is there anything else? By asking, is there what else? We're implying that there is something else, and they're going to think. So they might think for 20 or 30 seconds. We're just going to be quiet and let them think through that process. So then the need payoff, right? So situation, P for problem, I for implication, N for need payoff, which is you have a need, we're going to make this thing get really solved, and you're going to love your life. So let me ask, after all of this, thank you so much for sharing. If your energy and wellness felt really good, right, and you felt healthy again, and this was now not just for a few days, but it was sustainable, it was now week over week, going on for months, what would be different in your daily life? And now they're thinking, well, it's like I might do some exercise. I might bring salads to work. I might breathe better. I might fit in some of my old clothes, right? We're drawing them out. And they say, well, you might ask, well, what would it do for your confidence? What would it mean for you to feel confident and in control of your health again? So now we've got a nice little framework here that we've taken some notes, right? We're jotting down on a piece of paper here. We already know the current situation. We talked a little bit about the problems, make a quick note of what some of the problems are. We're going to probably have to remember the implication because that's real easy. If you got the problems, we're going to remember what that implies. And then finally, we want to get what they say matters to them. And if they say feeling confident, feeling healthy, I'm going to feel better at work. I'm going to feel better around my spouse, my kids. I might play sports again. That's a whole different thing, right? Where their life is now changing. So that's the conversation, right? If you're a wellness coach. So at the end of the conversation, we didn't sell anything. All we did was we uncovered. So what do we do from there? So again, some mistake a lot of people make is they jump right into the sale and they say, I've got a program that is $250 a month and let me walk you through it. And the person is like, well, wait a minute. We just had a nice conversation. Now this is all about a sale. So you got to be cautious about that. In my opinion, we've got to figure out where the person is and see if this is really going to be a sale yet. So if they're jumping down the throat, jumping down your throat saying, what is it you do? Can you help me with this? I've joined these gyms. They've done nothing, right? And they've already spent money. So you know they've spent money, then that's a good indicator that they're willing to spend it again. But if they're not really giving you tons of feedback yet, and you're not sure where this is going to go, I go to the Great Next Step approach from The Perfect Close by James Muir. So at the end of the conversation, I say, Mary, this has been great. Really appreciate you sharing all of this. At this point, does it make sense to, and then we think about what is a good next step? And we should know, is a good next step that we're going to meet again? Is a good next step going to be, let me offer you a free session? Let me share a testimonial. We want to know what a good next step is. So in this case, I've got, at this point, does it make sense to meet again next week and dig a little deeper and see if I might be able to provide a couple of tips that bring value to you? How does that sound? Well, if they say yes, then that's obvious, right? We're going to get out our phone, our calendar, and say, you want to meet at the same time? And you want to book the calendar meeting because you don't want to be chasing people through email about a meeting when you've got the person alive and in front of you. So we want to get that meeting scheduled. And then if they say no, which sometimes is going to happen because they sense that maybe you're going to sell something, maybe they're just not ready for it. Maybe they're just too busy. Maybe they don't have the budget for anything. Maybe they just spent some money on something. Maybe they're saving for a big vacation, whatever, right? So sometimes the answer is going to be no. And so now you can just simply ask, totally get it, right? You're not going to be relatable. You say, totally get it. I understand. Tell me, what do you think would be a good next step then? And the person's going to tell you. They're going to say, oh, they might say, I don't know. And then you can say, should we meet again in a few weeks? Should we meet again in a couple of months? Or they might say, why don't we just reconnect here 30 days from now, in a month? Let's just see how things are going. So now they're mapping out. They're telling you, here's the roadmap as to how I want to buy. These are my problems. And I don't want to talk to you again for the next 30 days because that's how I buy. And that's okay because they're telling us, some people are going to say, I'm ready to do something. Let's do something now. And others are going to play the long game a little bit with us. So hopefully we can take that same framework and go to our workshop. And let's see. Okay, good. I've got the feel felt found. Thank you. So let's see. What else? Sales not easy. So far, so good. Thank you, Ty. All right. So is this helpful so far? This spin with the soft, perfect close. What's our thought? Anyone want to throw something in the chat? Does this seem easy? Difficult? Dustin, thank you. Yes, good. That would be my dog saying hello. All right, good deal. So I'm going to share. Okay, good to remember. Does push sells? Yeah, good. Yeah. So pushiness, pushiness pushes people away. And some people who are selling, you know the deal. It's like you probably know someone who sells real estate or life insurance. Every time you see the person, they want to try to get you to buy something. So you run into them in the grocery store. You try to hide, right? You go down a different aisle. It's like maybe they won't see me. Put your head down. We don't want to be like that. We want to be really easy to approach and helpful, good listeners, always providing value. So when people see us, it's like we're friends, not here's Harry, the guy that's going to try to sell me again. So this guide, I think, is going to be super helpful. So we're going to go into a screen share here again, and we will. Cami, what's your thought so far?
Well, I'm going to drop that link in the chat for everybody.
Okay, perfect. And I'm going to share so you guys can follow along, or let's see. I want to do that differently. Stop share. I'm going to share a tab window. There. Okay. Let's see. Is this showing up now that you see the sales conversation worksheet?
Yes, it's perfect.
All right. Beautiful. All right. So now we get to do it ourselves because we're not probably all wellness coaches. So we've got your ideal client. We've got to figure this out. I have a whole separate presentation on who your ideal client is. But in a nutshell, you want to find somebody. My first criteria is they're friendly, right? They have a problem that I solve and they have money to pay for it, right? That's it, really. I mean, they've got to be friendly, they're ethical, and we talked about values. You've got to decide, right, who you're looking to speak with, what types of people. So in the wellness situation, we've got this scenario, but in your scenario, you want to put in another space and download. If you downloaded or made a copy of this, you want to just add some lines and say who are they, what's the problem they have, and what's the result they want. Then the 30-second positioning statement. This is one we talked a little bit earlier, and you want to be able to transition here to your own, right? What is it? Who is it you work with? So in the wellness scenario, I work with busy professional women who are tired of feeling drained and guilty about their health so that they regain natural energy, confidence, and a sustainable wellness lifestyle they actually enjoy. So if that's too long for you, that's okay. Shorten it, right? You could say, I work with small business owners that are looking for more security on their computer system or on their network so they don't have to worry about that and can focus on growing their business. Or I work with the homeowner who is looking to have a nice kitchen where they can enjoy and relax and have a great time and pursue their passion, which is cooking great meals. Whatever it is, right? That's what you need to write out what it is for your product or service. Then we're going to go down to the spin light, the curious questions. So you can go from, this is who I work with. Now I'm curious. Can you tell me about what's going on your network at work? How are you finding that the security is there, or whatever the problem it is that you're solving? We've got to get these, understand what their current situation. If you're a life coach, tell me a little bit about what you're doing to fulfill your purpose in life these days. What's keeping you happy, right? So you're starting out positive and then say, what's not working, right? So we're going to go from what's going well to now we're going to talk about what's not working. So whatever the question that you have is to where they are now, you're going to ask a first question. You're going to relax, ask another question, right? Get a couple of answers. Feel free to use the tell me more, right? Tell me more. And so you're repeating back some of what they say and then saying, tell me more. So I understand that you really want a great kitchen where you can spend time with the family. What else, right? So now I'm using the what else in there, or tell me more how you vision this, or what you're experiencing, or maybe what you're experiencing today. My bad. So now the problem, what's not working? All right, my kitchen's run down. I don't like it. Cabinets are old. Don't like the stove. It's electric. I want gas, whatever, right? I need more space, blah, blah, blah. So what happens? Tell me, what happens if nothing changes? And now you got the answers. Well, I'm going to have the same old problems. I'm not going to be able to entertain. Whatever the answers are that we want to get, we've got to kind of understand, where does this go? How might they respond to what happens if nothing changes? And then real world, when you're having these conversations, you want to get what these people are saying so you can use that in storytelling, which is a whole different presentation as well, tying in stories to help sell. So we've got, where are they now? Current situation. What's the problem? And what happens if nothing changes? And they're going to tell you, because this is all about them. This is 70% or so listening, very little talking. You're nodding, you're asking them, tell me more. What else? You're repeating a couple of words back to them. And then finally, your need payoff. What would success look like? Well, in the wellness situation, success looks like you lose 10 pounds, you've got more energy, you can fit in your clothes. The kitchen remodeler, it knows what success looks like. The IT security person, what does success look like in your business? And then I just kind of make a note there, is that because sometimes people are going to be stumped because they haven't really given it much thought. And so after 30 to 60 seconds, you ask, what does success look like? And 30 seconds seems like a long time if you're giving a presentation, but if you're having a conversation over coffee, take a drink, you kind of look at, the person, you look across the room or something, 30 seconds goes by pretty quickly. And then if they're still struggling, you say, what some people say, and now you're sharing a story. Some people might say that they feel better, or that they can do things that they didn't do before, or they haven't done for years, or maybe they can entertain in the kitchen like they were able to do when they're much younger and living in their family, or it reminds them of their grandparents' house, you name it. We want to understand what success looks like to them. And sometimes we have to prime the pump, as Zig Ziglar used to say, to get the gears turning. So there's our need payoff. And then we ask at the end, we got all this spelled out. We spend about 20 to 30 minutes with them. We don't want to overburden them. Sometimes people like to talk. You got to use your judgment here. But I like to keep it 20 to 30 minutes on the first call, and then say, this has been great. I really appreciate you sharing this. As a good next step, does it make sense to get together, to dig a little deeper, and maybe come up with a couple of ideas that will help you in the meantime, right? Will make your life a little bit better. And they say, yeah, that sounds good. You say, great, let's book it in the calendar, get our calendars out and schedule. If they say no, then you just simply say, totally get it. In your mind, what would a good next step be for you? And they say, Harry, I'm so done with you talking on and on. It's been 40 minutes. Please stop. Get out of my life. Well, I don't like that as a next step. But sometimes people are going to say, no, they're going to think that, but a little humor as a good next step is, I don't know, let's touch base in a couple of months and see how things progress. Harmless, right? They're just letting you know they're not really super interested at this point, which is okay. So we want to have some of our perfect closed scripts here. And I've got those here as a good, and you can reword this, but I like as a good next step. Does it make sense to schedule a short meeting? Or as a good next step, would it be helpful to put together a simple, personalized 90-day wellness plan? Come up with something, right? You got to have a good next step to move the sale forward, right? That's all sales is, by the way. It is finding a person that is in your ideal client range, right? People that have the problem that you solve and can pay for it, and having conversations, finding out what their challenge is, what they would like, and you solving that and moving that process forward and forward until they say, I'm ready to go ahead and sign this agreement or sign the contract or give you the money. And that's what sales is, right? If we go in thinking we don't really have a process and it's like, I hope this person buys today, it's just they're not ready if you don't have some kind of process. That's always a risk. And then we're asking too early. And then they turn away from us. And then finally, my question to you guys is there anyone in this room that would say, I am going to give this a try? So, what do you think? Do we have anyone here that says, yes, I'm going to fill this out and I'm going to give it a try? What do we got? Any volunteers? What do we got in the chat here? Any volunteers? Anyone say, yes, I want to try this? Any questions that you guys might have? Where would you like, if you want to spend a couple of minutes on anything, I'm happy to do that as well.
This is great. Thank you, Harry. We'll let everyone kind of think about it, see if we have anybody that's brave enough to do it with Harry. Keep in mind, Harry's an expert. So if you want even some suggestions on maybe ways to soften it or ways to make it feel more relatable, let Harry guide you through that.
Yeah, happy to. Or if you've got some sales challenge, I don't think there's a lot that I haven't come across yet. But a big, huge challenge is we are hoping people will buy when we don't really know if they want to solve the problem. So if we don't get the need payoff, right? We understand that they've got maybe a weight problem, just using the wellness, maybe that they know it's not going to get better on their own, but we don't know really what the outcome is that they want. And so we say things like, well, they've got to be interested. They really need my services. But if they don't see it, then you saying they need it does not help. And that's where sales get lost. Thank you, Dustin. Dustin, is this worth giving a try after you do the worksheet, figure out some of the questions? Is this worth giving a try? Do you think that you could put this to practice out in the field? And if the answer is no, that's okay. But I'm curious as to what you like about it or what you don't like. What could be better? If there's any feedback there, it'd be helpful. And no pressure. If that's you got other things going on, that's okay too.
We'll give him a few minutes to see if we get anything back, or the same applies to anyone else. If you looked at this worksheet and want to answer those same questions for Harry, please do so.
Yeah. If it's helpful or what you'd like to see differently, it's an off the cuff survey. I won't be offended. So really the goal here is to help you to grow your business and help Nebraska grow, of all places. The Cornhusker State. Is it the Cornhusker State?
Yes, it is.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
Good deal. All right. Yeah, good. Thank you, Ty. Yeah, so the key thing is to make it natural. And I totally agree with what you just said because if it's scripted, it's not. Yeah, so you have to make it very natural. Now I'm at an advantage because I've been selling for years, so I can have the conversations very naturally. So you have to make it your own, and I would definitely find someone to practice with. I mean, if it's your spouse, if it's a kid, if it's a business associate, and say, look, I'm working on this so I can improve my sales. This is the thing I'm going through. Can you spend 15 or 20 minutes so I can practice? Practice in the mirror, practice recording yourself. um, this is your livelihood, or will be your livelihood, and selling successfully takes work. So, a lot of people are going to record themselves in the phone, they'll record themselves on camera. Um, back in the day, I used to record myself on tape recorders. It's something you have to do to get comfortable so you sound natural. So getting very familiar with it and just saying, all you gotta do is find out. Tell me about your current situation. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing today. And then you just go from one thing to another. Get comfortable in the first step, then get comfortable with the problem, get comfortable with the implication, get comfortable with the need payoff, and it will come together to feel natural. But yeah, that's going to require some effort. So good point, Ty. Uh, yeah. How do you handle the on the fence candidates? I They move along pretty quickly because if the good next step is they don't want to meet right away, or if they don't want to do anything, like so, if I say, look, we've spent some time together, we did like a free coaching session. I say something along the lines is a good next step that we go ahead and try this out for 90 days as part of the program. And they say, no, I'm not ready for that, or let me think about it. The let me think about it is just typically a polite way of saying this could take some time, right? So you just kind of stay in touch with them and provide value every time you stay in touch, right? You send them a little article. They're going to know why you're sending the article. You say, I thought of you. Here's a little thing, or you find them on LinkedIn or Facebook, you comment. They're going to see you. That's a very soft way of staying in touch without necessarily saying, where do we stand? Right? Do you want to do this or not? Right? That gets gross. So, all right. So what else do we have here? Yeah, so that's on the fence. Yep, good. Thank you, Dustin. Another big takeaway will be developing my powerful positioning statement. Yeah, you've got to be comfortable with how you're relating what it is you do or what the outcome it is that you provide. Right. So I used to struggle with this. It's like, man, I hate talking about myself. So just getting it simple. I work with small businesses that want to grow their sales with better relationships so their business can prosper. So tell me, if I'm curious, right? So then I go right from my statement to tell me, or I'm curious, and ask a question, right? So I don't let them just ponder over what does that mean. Because I want to make it natural. I speak, ask a question, and then they come back with an answer. Yeah, good. Good stuff, Ty. Curiosity, caring, challenging to the next step. Yep. Keep going, right? And the process will be you can probably apply as a good next step without necessarily going through the spin selling. But next time you're in a conversation with somebody, try it out, right? Just say, I'm going to practice this portion. I want to know what their current situation is, or I want to nail my positioning statement. I want to nail that. And that's all you're doing, right? Nail that. And then you go with, tell me about your business or tell me about what's going on in your world. And before long, you're going to get more and more comfortable with it. Any other thoughts? You got it, Dustin. Happy to help. Thank you, Halsey or Haley. Sorry. Threw in an S in there.
Well, we do have Halsey, Nebraska.
Okay.
This has been great. Appreciate it. If you guys have more questions, more comments, keep putting them in the chat. Um, you will receive the recording today of today's webinar, and I will include the link to that document too. So if you need to reference it again, please do so. Harry, while we might have final thoughts coming in, I am going to share my screen
Sure.
uh, one more time. And um, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. If you have thoughts about today's training, please leave them in the feedback. If you would like us to bring Harry back again in any sort of capacity, please let us know what that might be or what you want to know more about. That will help us as we dive into more of our webinars and get our next year's conference geared up. And so I hope to see everyone back, same place, same time. Next week, we are bringing in another excellent speaker to build an aligned business, a fresh approach to sustainable success. And then we're gearing up for June already. So create once, grow everywhere, the effortless creator system. Those are just a couple of them that are our next one. So please get registered so that you are able to ask very specific questions, and then you'll also receive the recording with any sort of links. So please keep plugging away at our free trainings to grow your business. And again, we want that feedback. It'll also be asked in that follow-up email. And so let us know your thoughts or if you have topics that you want to see us bring in as a webinar topic. So with that, it looks like you just got a bunch of thanks in the chat. So
All
thank
right.
again, Harry. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you next week.